what to do when you're setting these new goals. So we're going into the new year. We're setting goals. We're trying to figure out what we want to become. And the first step is always the most difficult. Because what we do the first step depends on, it will change everything that happens the second, the third, and the fourth. So there's this ambiguity in front of us. And that ambiguity freaks us out. And it stops us from actually achieving the goals that we want to achieve. So I want to give you 2 strategies that you can use to overcome that fear of ambiguity, that fear of the unknown, and get your goal for 2026. So number 1 is mind the story that you're telling yourself. The story you tell yourself about why you're here is arguably more important than where you are right now. So let me say that one more time. The story you tell yourself about why you're here is more important than that you are here. Now, let me prove that to you real quick with some really interesting science. One of my favorite studies ever. There was a group of scientists studying optimism and pessimism. And what they did is they took a group of people learning how to play the guitar. So we have 1 month to play the guitar. On day 1, everyone is brand new. They're learning how to play. And at the end of day 1, they asked them, how good do you think you are? And everyone would score themselves. Some people said, I'm really good at this. I think I'm going to do really well at guitar. And then other people said, I'm really not very good. So this is going to be difficult for me. So we had optimists that were seeing things positively, and we had pessimists who were very negative about what their experience was going to be. Now, it probably will not surprise you at all to hear that the optimists ended up being objectively better at the end of the month. So the optimists told themselves a positive story about what they were going to do, and they used that positive story to take more action. They practiced more because of the story that they were telling themselves. The pessimists did exactly the opposite. They had a story in their head about how difficult everything was going to be. And so every time they wanted to take action, they not only had to do the normal action, they had to overcome that story as well. So again, it won't surprise you that these 2 groups completely diverged. But here's where the story gets interesting. The scientists stopped them on day 1 before they were asked, okay, are you an optimist or a pessimist? Do you feel good or bad? And they took a recording of these people as they were playing the guitar. So they're day 1 recordings. And they sent that to a guitar expert. And the guitar expert went through and they scored everybody. And what did the expert find? Nothing. She couldn't tell who thought they were good and who thought they were bad. So the optimists were lying to themselves. The optimists lied to them. They said, I am really good. But the expert, no, you objectively suck. You are no better than the pessimist. The pessimist came in and they said, I'm really bad at this. I'm not going to be good. And the expert could not figure out who thought they sucked because they all sucked. And of course they did. It was their first time. But the story that they told themselves ended up being the most important part of that. Because the people, they both started from the exact same spot, and yet the story they told themselves ended up changing their destination. So one more time, the story you tell yourself about where you are is more important than actually where you are. So that's strategy number 1. Number 2, embrace naivete. This is perhaps my favorite. Naive people is usually an insult. We say you're naive. You don't understand how complicated everything is. You are, stupid, basically. Naivete is best defined by a comedian, Steve Martin. He said, naivete is that wonderful quality that keeps you from knowing how unprepared you are to do what you are about to do. So it's not about where you're going. You are obviously not prepared to finish the race that you're starting. But also you are not supposed to be, because this is the, okay. I was just wondering, I was like, have I really not hit green yet? So of course you're not ready to finish this race because you're not supposed to be. Embracing naivete is more about understanding that you have the ability to figure out what you will do in the moment rather than knowing from the outside. So what most people do is when we face that ambiguity, when we have no idea what to do, what action to take, the most natural response for us would be to stop and to learn more, right? Get more information, get more books, research more. That is the most natural thing in the world, but it's also what stops us from actually taking action. So I want you to imagine what happens when you are embracing your naivete, when you are allowed to be new and therefore take action. You jump in, your skills and your strategy, your skills and your knowledge are both at the same point. They are both balanced, which is perfect because you get to feel this feeling of flow. But when you don't allow yourself to be new, what ends up happening is you learn all these new strategies and then you figure out, wow, I am way more unprepared than I thought I was. And now instead of having a balance, your skills are the same because you haven't actually done anything. But at the same time, you've increased your perceived challenge. Because now, not only do you have to do the challenge you thought you had, but you also have to do all these new strategies that you've learned at the same time. So that is my two strategies. Number one is to mind the story that you're telling yourself. And number two is to embrace your naivete, allow yourself to be a beginner. Oh, thank you.
Okay. Jared, I'm glad to be your evaluator and also a little bit nervous. And this is your second speech in Toastmasters, and it's about writing a speech with purpose. And Jared's speech purpose is to inspire people to get started on new goals without hesitation, right? And I have to say, Jared is a good stand-up comedian and also a good speaker. I guess every stand-up comedian needs to write a structure for your comedy, I guess. Do you want to take a look on Jared's speech structure?
Whoa, wow.
He sent me this to me, and very concise and precise about his speech structure. So this speech is for Jared to learn how to create a speech structure. So I think he really did a great job about opening and hook, body and conclusion. My mentor ever told me a good speech needs three parts: opening, body, and conclusion. And I think Jared really did a great job. And I also noticed that you have a hook, and Jared just mentioned something just exactly happened outside the door during the induction ceremony. And I was wondering, how could he get ideas so quickly, just to use something just happened as the idea in the speech. So I really admire this. And the second one, I think you did a great job, is your speech style. I like you were very straight and very clear in your speech, because this speech is about some experiments and some theories. So I think it's good to be very straightforward. And for this part, it's very good because we know, Jared had two strategies for us. First one, be optimistic, and second one, embrace naivety. Okay, it's a French. Yeah, so I guess everyone really had a good understanding about Jared's speech because it's very clear. And I also have a suggestion for you. I think you can connect your audience with a strong closing like opening and closing, because I noticed you may have a closing line in your script. Don't get started because your goal is easy. Do it because you thought it'd be easy. I think this is your closing line, but maybe you forgot to say this. And if you can say a good closing with your audience, then your audience can know, oh, why Jared wants to tell this to us, why Jared wants to teach us how to get started on the new goals. Yes, so I think you can practice on connect with your audience with a strong closing. And to challenge yourself, I think you can be more mindful about your unintentional gestures on stage, because sometimes you will do gesture like, I'm not sure, maybe it's common for a comedian, but in Toastmasters, we need to be aware of any unintentional gestures. So this is my suggestion for you. And